Were you to simply look at silhouettes of MMA athletes doing their thing, odds are you probably wouldn't be able to tell who was fighting. There are, of course, exceptions. Some guys have styles so unique, they're instantly recognizable to even the most casual of casuals, playing a big part in their overall name value and image. You guys seem to love part 1, so here we are back once again with 10 more unique styles. So who made today's intricate list? I'm George, you're watching Fight Game Insider, and in no particular order, this is the top 10 unique MMA styles part 2. Number 10. Zabit Magomedov. Recently retired Dagestani featherweight is noticeable for the fact that he doesn't simply enjoy the go-to wrestling style of his compatriots. Yeah, wrestling is, or was, a part of his game, but he also offers so much more. Comfortable from both southpaw and orthodox, Zabit is just at home grappling as he is wrestling, which instantly separates him from his fellow Dagestanis. The 18-1 brawler is so comfortable on the ground, in fact, that he boasts one of the only 3 Soloyev stretch finishes in UFC history. Phenomenal footwork coupled with epic stance switching was the base from which many of his attacks were formed, and when you add in just how creative Khabib's mate was, then you begin to realize just how unique he was. He's probably one of those fighters who wasn't truly appreciated until he was gone, but it's a testament to the man that the featherweight division undertook a collective sigh of relief upon hearing of his retirement. Number 9. Ryan Hall. Similar to England's Paul Sass in how he so heavily relied on triangle chokes throughout his career, Hall can often be found looking for heel hooks. Although he only has 2 heel hook finishes to his name, it feels like more. Everybody in the game knows that if he gets you in that terrifying position, it's probably going to be good night. With several BJJ and grappling accolades to his name during his career, Hall's domain truly is on the mat. I mean, he's even managed to tap one of the game's GOATs in BJ Penn, solidifying his status as a true master of his craft. Much like light heavyweight Paul Craig, Hall's grappling heavy style is a dead giveaway, as given the chance, he'll look to get his opponent to the ground at the earliest possible occasion, which Ilia Topuria would have been all too aware of back in 2021, managing to score a quick knockout in the first. Number 8. Sha Strickland. When Strickland won the middleweight crown and simultaneously shocked the world back in September, many people around the sport were baffled at how someone who had often been described as one-dimensional could have ever beaten Israel Adesanya. But beat him he did. Strickland walked down Izzy using his unique style of upright orthodox boxing, but what makes him so unique is the amount of damage he doesn't take. Tarzan is literally the Floyd Mayweather of MMA, and has even received plaudits from UFC commentator Joe Rogan for his stellar defensive work. With supreme cardio, Strickland pushes the pace by forcing his opponents into boxing range, and then applying his jab cross combos. A real throwback to a bygone age, Sha Strickland is the type of fighter who makes you believe that anything is possible in the sport of MMA. Number 7. Genki Sudo. One of the first truly flashy mixed martial artists, Japan's Sudo was also one of the most unorthodox of his generation, a style which blended capoeira with ostentatious striking. Sudo had a propensity for the spinning back fist, as well as throwing elbows from all angles. He was also well versed in extravagance where his jiu-jitsu was concerned, collecting wins by way of flying triangle and flying armbar during a career which saw him go 16-4. Even before you entered the octagon, you knew you were at a Genki Sudo fight, as the now serving Japanese politician would dance or even flip his way to the octagon, simultaneously entertaining his legions of adoring fans, whilst also managing to unnerve whichever opponent was brave enough to stand across the cage from. A real showman who could also back his antics up. Sudo holds a notable win over Gracie family 8th degree red black belt Royler Gracie. Number 6. Khabib Nurmagomedov. Make way for Mr. Ground and Pound himself. Nurmagomedov was a bona fide wrecking machine during his run in the UFC, ragdolling opponents and dragging them down into deep water before smashing them to smithereens. Yes, we're looking at you, Connor. With a record of 29 wins and 0 losses, the Dagestani style was so unique that there was simply nobody who could offer any answers. What made him so great, according to his former teammate Daniel Cormier, was the fact that everybody knew what was coming, but nobody knew how to defend against it. DC also explained that even if his opponent survived the round, Khabib wouldn't panic and just did the exact same thing in the next round. The thing about silhouettes I mentioned earlier? Well, is there any more iconic silhouette than Khabib controlling someone on the ground before laying into them? I think not. One thing that may go against the Eagle in the all-time GOAT list, however, is his relatively meager title wins, a paltry 4. That said, I wouldn't say that to his face. Number 5. Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez is an anomaly. A man with all the talent in the world and terrifying kicks to boot. He's just never seemed to be able to put it all together when it mattered most, evidenced by his title loss to Volk last summer. That doesn't mean he isn't one of the most unique guys on the UFC roster, however. Yair boasts some of the most creative striking in the whole organization. I mean, that Korean zombie KO anyone? As athletic as he is agile, Rodriguez isn't afraid to try the unorthodox, and his willingness to take risks, often to his own detriment, simply ramps the excitement up to 11 whenever he's in the octagon. You could argue Yair is unlucky to exist in the same division as the best featherweight to ever do it, and without Volk, he may well have strapped gold around his waist. But one thing's for sure, much like Genichiro Pudo, his unpredictable style makes him a fan favorite nonetheless. Number 4. Keith Jardine. One for the old-school fight fan, former UFC, Pancrase, and Strikeforce light heavyweight, Jardine made a name for himself as a famously unorthodox fighter. The man from Montana had one of the most awkwardly unique styles in the game in the mid-2000s, putting men like Forrest Griffin and Chuck Liddell to the sword. An immense reach, coupled with plenty of unpredictability, Jardine was able to grind down opponents who weren't used to taking blows from such odd angles. Jardine was often underestimated throughout his career, but those statement wins I mentioned, as well as a fight IQ to match the best of them, made Keith Jardine one of the most unique fighters from the early days. Oh, and his slightly bizarre sideways stance only added to the mystery of the Dean of Mean. Number 3. Anthony Pettis. We couldn't discuss unique fighting styles without the man who pioneered the Showtime kick and simultaneously beckoned in a new age of athletic, agile fighters. Anthony Pettis had a bit of everything, but he was, and still is, primarily known for his striking abilities. Anyone who knocks out Wonderboy with a Superman punch deserves any striking plaudits he receives, to be fair. Pettis' striking is as unpredictable as it gets, incorporating a hint of capoeira, which is what helps make him so unique.
Maybe not.
But that isn't all he has to offer. Far from it. The man from Milwaukee also offers a solid submission game, and he's more than willing to take risks in his fights and try the extraordinary. Like many fighters with unique styles, Pettis is as exciting as any other guy on this list, and his work in the clinch is not to be overlooked. In fact, this is where Sergio's big brother often excels, with knees and elbows coming from all angles. Whilst Pettis didn't reign as UFC lightweight champion for all that long, there is no doubting just how unique he was during his run in the top promotion. Number 2. Nick Diaz. Where do we start with Nick? One of the biggest personalities the game has ever seen. An expert grappler, Diaz's modified ground game is one of the best around and suits MMA down to the ground, pun intended. He's been quoted in the past as saying his preference on the ground is Kimura, but he has a vast array of attacks where BJJ is concerned. What makes the older Diaz brother so unique though is his boxing style. With a solid background in the squared circle, Nick has actually fought professionally. His boxing translates to MMA a little unusually, relying on volume more than power. Diaz actually holds the record for the most strikes attempted in a single round, 181. So yeah, it's safe to say the Nick Diaz style is pretty unique. Almost as unique as the Nick Diaz trash talking, which I think we can all agree was next level. Nick belongs to that very special group of world-class fighters who never won a UFC title. However, he did manage to wear gold during his days with Strikeforce and WEC. A truly unique fighter in more ways than one. We hope to see him out again one last time in 2024 to put the icing on a remarkable career. Number 1. Tom Aspinall. Dare I say it, but Big Tom Aspinall might just be the man who finally dethrones John Jones. His all-action style during his 8 UFC fights to date has resulted in less than 20 minutes of octagon time. Just let that sink in for a second. Aspinall is a heavyweight who moves like a welterweight, leaving a trail of damage and destruction in his wake. His solitary UFC loss to Curtis Blades was a result of a freak accident, but the English wrecking ball is now back on track and has recently bagged interim gold in the heavyweight division. The thing that makes Aspinall so unique is the amount of strings he has to his bow. Worried about his striking and decided to take him down? Well, now you're in a world of hurt, as he offers some of the best BJJ ever witnessed in the heavyweight division, and this is a division which Fabricio Werdum called home. Joe Rogan recently claimed that Big Tom will be the next big thing when asked, which shows you just how unique the current interim champ actually is. From the dynamic and unpredictable movements of fighters like Genichiro Pudo and Yair Rodriguez, to the unorthodox styles of Keith Jardine and Sha Strickland, right through to Anthony Pettis' flashy striking. These guys have made a lasting impression on fight fans around the globe, and for that, we will be forever thankful. And that just about wraps it up for today's video. Were there any you think we missed? Let us know in the comments. I'm George, and until next time, see ya!